Right, let's look at how to convert a common fraction to a percentage. There was a list of certain fractions that you must know out of your head. One of them is a half. A half is always 50% and a quarter is always 25%. To work that out, all you'd have to do is say, okay, if I times the top by 25 and I times the bottom by 25, I will end up with a fraction out of 100, and that will be 25 out of 100, because 4 times 25 is 100, so that's 25%. But it's one that I'd like you to know out of your head and not have to work out in the future. 1/10 you also need to know out of your head is 10%. How does that work? It's because I times by 10 at the top and the bottom, and that makes it 10 out of 100, which is then 10%. 3/5, and that I think was one of the tricky ones, because it's now more than 1 and it's out of 5. Well, if I times 3/5 by 2, at the top and the bottom, I get 6/10, right? And that's easy to see. You know, if you get 6 out of 10 for a test, you got 60%. Don't touch your mask. Okay, great. So that is then 60 out of 100 if I times them both by 10 still, and that is 60%. You don't have to show any calculations here. I'm showing them to explain. Number 4 is out of 20. So to turn something out of 20 into a fraction out of 100, not times by 100, times by 5. And if I times the top and the bottom by 5, I get 90 out of 100. You might want to work 18 times 5 out quickly. So I could do 10 times 5 is 50, and 8 times 5 is 40, and 50 plus 40 is 90. That is 90%. 1, a whole 1. If I tell you the whole class, as in one class, didn't do their homework, then that would be 100% of the class. Okay. But what about 2.5 then? You could think of it technically as 2 is then 200 out of 100, and the half is 50 out of 100, but you don't have to think of it that way, but that is then 250%. Okay. So whole numbers make 100%. Okay, so 1 is 100%. 0.5 or 0.5 is 50%. 0.7 is 70%. 0.9 is 90%. Okay, 7 out of 1,000. Oh, that's difficult, because 7 out of 1,000, if I have to turn 1,000 into 100, I need to divide by 10, right? What is 7 divided by 10? 0.7 out of 100. So this is 0.7%. We usually don't use decimals in common fractions, so you wouldn't really look at it that way. But 7 out of 1,000 is 0.7%, not 7%. That would be 7 out of 100. Next, if I look at a decimal, 0.8, that is 80%. 0.75 is 75%. And 0.07 is, okay, 0.7 would be 70%, right? So 0.07 would be 7%. Okay. Let's look at converting to common fractions. You must simplify your answer. So the first thing is easy. It's easy to say, oh, okay, well, 20% is 20 out of 100. But remember to simplify. If I take the zeros out, that'll be 2 over 10, but that can still go further. I can half both of them to make it a fifth. So that's your final answer. 10 out of 100 I can take a 0 away at the top and the bottom. That means I'm dividing them both by 10. That gives me 1 out of 10. Next, I've got 5 out of 100, and they can both divide by 5. And that will give me 1 out of 20. If I simplify that, 1% is 1 out of 100, and obviously that can't change any further. And then 75% is 75 out of 100, and they can both divide by 25. But I wouldn't use the long method here. This is another one you'd know out of your head, that 75% is 3/4. Okay, so sorry, I can't fit the 5 in there because this 25. Okay. %100 is a whole number 1. 40% is 40 out of 100, which can go down to 4 out of 10, which can go down to 2 out of 5. 13 is a prime number, so 13% is 13 out of 100, and I know there's nothing I can divide it by except for itself, but 100 won't divide by 13, so I'll stop there. 2 out of 100 can both half, 1 out of 50. And the last one, 80 out of 100. There are many steps, but I would go with 8 out of 10 and then go half that, 4 out of 5.